Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18 Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. I am here with a ramble. I have been a few times pretty open about the fact that I have been feeling some ambivalence about being a video creator here on YouTube for the past, I don't know how many months, year. I've been a lot less present here than I have been previously, and I've mentioned here and there, that I've been kind of deciding what my presence here would look like for the near future. Been feeling very mixed about things, and in my most recent video about 2026 New Year's resolutions, I shared that for the time being I do plan to be here. I do plan to continue making videos. And one of my resolutions was to kind of take the pressure off myself a little bit in terms of what those videos need to look like, and just kind of sit down and talk when I feel like I had something to say, without feeling the need to kind of plan things out or think too much, overthink too much. So this video is disorganized and in the spirit of that. In that New Year's resolution video, I made a kind of throwaway comment about the fact that probably nobody would be interested in a video about my YouTube ambivalence. And sure enough, I got a comment or two saying, actually, that would be really interesting. So, this is about neither tarot nor books, but, I like a request, so here it is. I want to talk about some of the things that have been making me not want to be here, some of the things that are keeping me here, and if I can stay narrowly focused-ish, to not go on forever. I want to try to stay as YouTube specific as I possibly can. Certainly I feel lots of mixed feelings about kind of being on the internet in general, about, my screen time and things like this that are not at all specific to making videos on YouTube. But the thing that I have been grappling with that I've called an ambivalence has been YouTube specifically. So I want to talk about that. For context, people may or may not know this, I am pretty much only here as far as anything that could be called social media goes. I haven't been on Facebook in well over a decade at this point. I don't have a profile. I deleted it a very long time ago. I was on Instagram for a time, not particularly enthusiastically, but I was there. But I deleted that as well. So, this is kind of it. And I mention that because I think some of the ambivalence has to do with that. Like leaving would mean that I was on kind of no social media at all. I kind of don't think of YouTube as social media 100%, but it's in that world, right? So I want to kind of start with some of the things that are pulling me away, have been pulling me away, continue to do so, and then talk about some of the reasons that I'm still here and why I want to still be here. So broadly speaking, I mean, the fact that YouTube is owned by Google certainly doesn't help and doesn't make me want to be here. The idea that I'm, by my presence here, making money for a company like that, a big company like that, certainly makes me not comfortable. I'm under no false impressions that it is possible to be, an ethical consumer in a capitalist context or anything like this, but I do try to be as deliberate as possible in terms of kind of what I support with my money and with my, energy, which I don't mean in any kind of esoteric sense. I mean, just like my time, my capacity, And a big company like Google is not, something that I want to be, putting those resources towards. I have shifted a fair amount in terms of the kinds of services that I use online. I use a privacy-centric email service that I pay for, as opposed to using Gmail for my personal emails, for example. And so trying to be mindful of, what my presence is supporting. That's a big component of why I feel very mixed about being here. Certainly, I would not want to be supporting Meta as a company and leaving Instagram. Had a lot to do with that. I'm not here because I feel better about Google, right, is what I'm saying. The proliferation of AI certainly contributes to that. It's not the sole factor, but I have tremendous concerns about the proliferation of AI for a number of different reasons. Maybe that's a video in future. I feel like there's been conversations here and there on TarotTube, and certainly there's been conversations on BookTube as well, about why AI is concerning. Some of the reasons, I feel like some of the reasons I'm most concerned about it, or most disturbed by it, are kind of underemphasized, if anything. I feel like for me as a druid, environmentally alone, the idea of contributing to, AI is very concerning. The environmental impacts are massive. I don't like the idea of my thoughts or my likeness or my words or my work being ingested without my consent, by kind of generative AI models. And I don't presume that my published work that's online but behind paywalls is safe from this. But I certainly know that anything I put here is not, right? And that has, spiritually put a real damper on my enthusiasm for wanting to be here, right? And this is very much a kind of ramble about how I've been feeling. This is not a comprehensive analysis by any means. If that's what I was trying to do, I would do something very different. But just in terms of what I've been feeling and what has been kind of pulling at me emotionally or spiritually, right? This is a huge part of it. Certainly as well, privacy concerns, very broadly speaking, figure into how I've been feeling about being here on YouTube. YouTube is where I feel most exposed. And I don't mean that in a sense of you can see my face and therefore it's exposing, but I mean that in the sense of, if I look at every service online that I use from kind of a privacy standpoint, if I was to kind of rank them in terms of most to least, privacy conscious or privacy respecting or privacy centric, YouTube would be very near the bottom, right? And that contributes too. I'm not happy with the idea that just, my information is everywhere and being used for all kinds of nefarious purposes, marketing and beyond. I don't like that. And that does skew my enthusiasm or lack thereof for filming videos, right? And it's a concern now for me in new ways with Discord as well, because I do chat on Discord. I moderate a very large server on Discord. I participate in lots of smaller servers on Discord. And, there's been chatter about an IPO happening for Discord in the next couple of months. And a survey went around about how users would feel about the integration of various kinds of AI features into Discord. And you know, the AI piece and the privacy piece has me thinking about how long my time on Discord will last as well. So it's by no means only YouTube that I'm thinking about these things, but YouTube has been the one that has been challenging me of late so far the most. And of course things like, you know, screen time or like being busy in my day-to-day life and things like this are all factors as well. But really it's this kind of, what is my presence here contributing to, in terms of like who makes money off of that? You know, that makes me uncomfortable. The AI stuff makes me like uncomfortable as an understatement. You know, and privacy concerns are there too. And those have been the big things, I would say, that lead me to thinking that maybe not being on YouTube would be better for me. But at the same time, here I am. And, you know, it wouldn't be ambivalence if I didn't have reasons for being here as well, right? I found leaving Instagram, you know, which I did for a number of reasons, and kind of over time, because I stopped using it and posted that I was no longer active there. And then that kind of just stayed there as my most recent post for months and months and months and months, until I posted again saying, oh, I'm actually deleting, right? It was a long drawn out departure. I felt much less torn about my departure from Instagram than I have about whether or not I should be here, because ultimately I didn't actually like Instagram very much. There was very little that I liked about Instagram, even when I did use it regularly. I had no livelihood related reasons to be on it. Like, I understand how these decision-making processes about being on particular sites are, you know, complicated when one runs a business, for example, that is reliant on particular kinds of networking and advertising and things like that. Like, none of those were factors for me, and none of those are factors for me here either. And ultimately, Instagram just didn't do anything for me, really. And even with the kind of, you know, considerations of not wanting to support Meta and considerations around privacy and all of these things, like moderation policies changed. All of those things pushed me away from being on Instagram, but also at the end of the day, I didn't really like being on Instagram. Whereas there are things about YouTube that I really like and I really value. I have felt a real shift, and this has been years ago now, from when I was just, I shouldn't say just, from when I was watching and commenting on others' videos versus making my own. I personally felt a significant shift in terms of how I felt as a participant in conversations, you know, about tarot, about books, about all the things. I have really enjoyed and do enjoy participating in conversations about things that I care about, things that I enjoy, with people who have shared interests. I like talking about things, you know. And I feel like I have experienced that in ways that I've really appreciated here on YouTube, in ways that I have not on other social media platforms that I have left. And so there's that kind of aspect of not wanting to lose that. I've also met people here via TarotTube specifically who I really, truly think of as friends. In some cases, that's folks that I have spent time offline and in person with. In some cases, that's folks who I have Zoom chats with, or, you know, talk with in kind of real time, swap text messages with, what have you. And I will always, kind of regardless of any other factor at play, appreciate YouTube for that, because it is where I've made friendships that I think will be lifelong, that I hope will be lifelong. And so that, you know, as meaningful as that is, makes it hard to think about not being here, but there are all of these other things that make me think, I don't know about being here. A couple of videos that I've seen here on YouTube have also kind of contributed to my thinking. I'll say that I just wanted to mention, and I'll link them below. You know, neither of which are videos that are about this topic per se, but they kind of talk about things that I connect to this anyway. And one is a recent-ish video from Will at Atypical Tarot. And he's made a couple of these videos now that are like get to know me videos, where he is sharing aspects of his life, you know, his career trajectory, his religious life, his past, you know, and really like intimate details about his life. And in the beginning of the first one of those that he made, he said something at the beginning about how important human connection is and the fact that technology can't duplicate it. And the fact that we need human connection. You know, and maybe we need human connection now, you know, as much as ever, more than ever, who knows. But none of this kind of AI shit can ever take the place of getting to know someone else, right? And I would say, you know, human connection, and also like human connection with other species too. I'm reading Donna Haraway right now, so like cross-species relationships are very much on my mind as well. That's another topic too. But yeah, he makes this kind of point, and again, it's not the topic of the video, but saying, you know, knowing each other, like human connection being so important and so, you know, unable to be replicated by other things. And that has really stuck in my mind because I feel like all the kind of proliferation of these technologies that claim, or that kind of, in some ways claim to be able to replicate particular aspects of what humans do, that has really, in many ways, been something that's made me not want to be here. And this one kind of statement from Will is like, this is why we do need to be here. And so I've been thinking a lot about that and feeling complicated about it. But I do agree that YouTube as a space, at least for me personally in my own experience, has, you know, as I mentioned, contributed to and been a site of human connection that has been really meaningful for me, that continues to be so. And I don't see that changing. So that's a huge reason to want to continue to engage here in the ways that I have. The other video that has been on my mind as I've been thinking about all of this is one from Dustin. And I can't remember what his channel name or handle is, but I'll put it below. And he made a video where he's talking about Tarot of the Crystal World, and he was showing pictures of, or like showing cards from Tarot of the Crystal World, and, you know, talking about different, like pop culture references that it reminded him of and things like this. And he had a very, as I did, not on camera, but he on camera, he had a very emotional reaction to that deck and talked about, in ways that I really appreciated, the kind of emotional response to feeling represented and kind of seeing experiences that you have be shared with someone else in ways that are new to you. And seeing representation that makes you feel kind of kinship. So I would say. And he's particularly, you know, talking about being a young queer person and not seeing, you know, queer representation growing up in a small town, and how particular few instances of representation in in television and that were very impactful and very meaningful and very emotional and very, you know, bolstering in terms of kind of something that felt like encouragement to keep going, right, and to be there. And one of the many reasons I decided not to stay on Instagram was because the moderation policies changed away from, what little moderation of hate speech was already happening, and to kind of have even less of that moderation. And I've experienced some pretty gross comments on here and like messages and things like that, and so this particular decision to weaken those kind of moderation protections, as like shit as they were to begin with, was just kind of this last straw for me, where I was like, you know what, fuck it then. Like I don't use my profile here anyway. Delete. I'm done, right? But because I've had so much more meaningful experience and connection here on YouTube than I have on Instagram, doing that kind of, well, fuck it, delete my channel feels a lot more weighty and feels like something that I don't feel like I can do as quickly as I did there, hence feeling so ambivalent about it and rambling at you for 20 minutes about it, right? And to go back to Dustin's point about representation, I feel like right now we know, and this is not new. A lot of the time people are talking about this like it's new. It is not. There are some very loud and very emboldened voices who would prefer that I was not here. And I mean, like, not here in multiple senses of the word, right? Definitely not here, like, visible, and taking up space, but also, like, not here more generally. And does that make me want to stay here in some meaningful ways? Yes. Not because I think I'm any kind of representative, certainly don't want to be any kind of representative, not at all. But I have experienced, what Dustin is talking about in terms of the impact of finding people, like whether those are people who are, that you can interact with, or whether that's kind of finding representations of people in, media of various sorts, that means something, and that's important. So, I'm also cognizant of the fact that for lots of folks, being here is a serious safety concern. I know people who have made decisions to really, dial back how visible they are, online out of concern for not just, safety consequences, but professional consequences or kind of family consequences of being visible in various kinds of ways, right? In terms of identities and practices and things like this. And so, in saying that the fact that people don't necessarily all want me here makes me want to be here is not me discounting like those very real considerations and very real difficult decisions that people are making. But for the time being, I want to be here. And in making that a resolution for the year, in no means do I mean to imply that won't necessarily change. In 6 months I could feel really differently. These are really hard things because I'm not, with considerations like this, thinking about things like representation and friendship and privacy and ethics and connection, all of these things. I'm not someone who approaches thinking about these kinds of considerations as, do they cancel each other out? Because I don't think that that's, for me, helpful or accurate, right? I don't think a potentially positive impact of something that I'm doing nullifies negative effects of something that I might be doing, or vice versa. So, it's not so simple as making a kind of pro and cons list and seeing how many things are on each. All of these things have been points of probably lots of overthinking on my part, but yeah, I don't have a tidy conclusion here to offer you, but, I wanted to talk this through because, one person expressed interest in what I was feeling about this particular thing. And I think that I'm probably not the only person who's feeling some of these ways about YouTube and about other, online contexts as well. So I wanted to just offer this again as my rambling reflections. By no means any kind of cohesive argument, just a meander through what I've been thinking about. So thank you for watching. I welcome conversation in the comments, and I will talk to you again soon.